Get everything. Oh shit. May have to step outside for a breath of fresh air after that one. Man, oh man, here we go again. We're back at it on the Ranger, and I ain't gonna be no stranger to getting this rear end put under this thing today. Hopefully. Now, if this is your first time here, this is my 96 Ranger, the old Minitruck. In previous episodes, we tore the rear end out of this thing, got the frame all cleaned up and painted, all the brackets, suspension, everything stripped out of it. Now we're ready to start going back together. I'm just playing a little bit. It's fun to do some different little intros for this stuff. Little Puddin's Fab Shop nod. Oh geez, safety glasses flying everywhere. Now before we get too deep into anything here, I just wanted to say, happy holidays to everyone. Today's actually Christmas Day. We're done with presents, done with all the stuff that we do at our household, and just all the girls are playing with their toys and all their stuff that they got, and Dad's out here playing with his toys. But on the upside, at least it's really cold and crappy. I'm sure you guys are probably in the same boat I am if you're here in the Midwest. If you're not, be happy for that. All right, first bracket going in here. Exciting stuff. Get a couple of these guys started. If you haven't done these before, it's pretty nice because you get the old rivets knocked out of it. You already got all your holes, everything ready to go. Here we go. Let's start hammering these things down. Oh, nice. Yeah. Stay on. There we go, one bracket down. That thing's not looking too bad. Super easy to install these things. I'm glad I went this route. If you didn't see the last video where I was fighting the old ones, yeah, that one there. Yeah, this is definitely a good upgrade. And like I mentioned before, I've got a couple extra coats of paint on this. Obviously, in the meantime, between the last video and now, I've went through and I think I got 3 or 4 total coats on this thing. I know specifically where all these bolt on. I've put a few extra coats for just some quick wire wheel work, knocking the big heavy stuff off. And then, yeah, the old underbed mini notches here. Didn't turn out too shabby. I know I didn't show much of it in the last videos, but you can see right up there is where my bump stops go. I got the bottoms of these capped off. Just little simple plates. Extended them out a little bit for a little extra strength. Welded them from the inside and the outside. One of the things you can see I decided kind of against doing was I was originally going to plate the inside of here as well. But one thing I got to thinking about was I have this guy, this big loop of wiring right here, runs all the way along the frame and back through that hole there and then up into that plug there for all my tail lights and everything else. So I kind of needed a clean way to route all this. And with the way I designed these, this space right through here is all actually open and nothing's interfering with it. The only thing that'll be there is that little bump for the or the little bolt for the bump stop, and I can run the wiring straight through there. Still a nice clean install, and no worries about it coming outside and chafing along sharp edges and stuff like that. So I can get those bump stops installed today while I'm doing all this as well, and that's a pretty simple task. Right, if you remember, or if you hadn't seen the video, when I was building my notches, I just took and welded a nut on the inside of here so this thing could thread into it. Pretty easy at this rate. No tools needed, just the way I like it. Simple, easy to work on. If one of these fails or comes apart or something happens to it, just reach up under there, spin a new one in. All right, same process on the rear. Now for the Ranger specific part, I am going to keep these, boy, that bed's right in my way. I am going to keep these flipped for now, but with those 4-inch drop leaf springs, I'm not sure how much overall drop that thing's actually going to give me with the axle being flipped and all the other lowering stuff that I've done over the years. So these may end up getting flipped back around. The upside of it being a bolt-in deal is I just unbolt them, flip them back around. That felt great on the old eardrums. Perfect. Sometimes it just makes so much more sense to get all new stuff. Let's try lining this thing up. I think I'm going to put the back in first. Get that up in place. Get up here. There we go. Not that I need the nuts on it, but easier to keep track of stuff when you leave the nuts on things. And then see how these fronts look. Nope, not like that. Not like that. Well, hammer time there. That gets her home. Nut on it. Interesting. Again, for whatever reason, this leaf spring does not look right in here. We'll come back to that. All right, we're gonna pop these things apart, see what we can get here. Oh, a little more bite than that. A little less. Oh, a little less. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Easy as that. You gonna come out and play nice? Probably not. I'm gonna persuade you out. See if we can delicately take these apart. It'll work. And the point of that is that I need to flip this guy over. Why? Get up there. Oh, way too much. Whoa. Can you come on back. Come on back. There we go. A little more, a little faster, a little slower. Right there. All right. You go right back in there. And then you can go right back in there. All right, so maybe we do put that back on. Now my clamp's in the wrong spot. Boy, if I could just do one thing right today, that would be cool. Let's get you over here. You know what? You're nothing but in my way. You can just go back on there. Then we'll give it the hammer job there. Make sure leaves are lined up. Yeah. You're pretty close. There we go. I may have to trim off the excess of that, but I'll worry about that later. Anyway, yeah, ooh, we'll see. Key tip here, guys, when you're putting these together, you can tell this is the front, well, because of the way it is. Well, running into a little bit of a conundrum here. I'm trying to bolt in the bracket on the driver's side, but some big ugly mug is right in the way. With all the filler neck and just how tight this tank is to the frame, and then all the fuel lines and everything that run in there, I may have to drop this tank. I really didn't want to, because that's going to be a pain right here on the ground. Plus I got all this leaking brake fluid that's just made a mess down here. The biggest problem is I can't get these little nuts in on the back side of the frame for those bolts. I guess sometimes things get sidetracked. So we may drop this thing out. If I drop it out, I'm definitely running it to the car wash. I'm gonna at least pressure wash the outside of it off. Well, get the creeper out and get my bench press skills on. Darn it. All right. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Doesn't smell too bad. Surprisingly, still has a hint of... Ow. Dang it. I'll just put you over there. Dang it. Still has a hint of varnish smell. Not too shabby, though. Well, meanwhile, while I'm debating over how badly I want to crawl under that thing and drop the tank out, I'm going to move on to something else. True procrastinator's form here. Oh, jeez. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild on my drive shaft. And by rebuild on it, I mean just clean it up and paint it. I've already replaced the U-joints not that long ago. They're good, perfect shape. I'll hit them with a little grease before it goes back in. But otherwise, I'm just going to run the old cheek poker over it here. And then come back with a little... And then it'll be brand new. We'll just throw it right in the truck. Well, if you're unfamiliar with why they call those things a cheek poker, you know, here's a good example. Already bleeding in a few spots, you know. That happens. I probably should have worn gloves, but yeah, hey, whatever. Anyway, about wrapped up here. We're going to move on to some paint prep and getting this thing, you know, over into the paint booth and really getting a good coat of, you know, some high quality paint on this thing. All right, get this thing all prepped up, degreased, finished sanded, ready to go. Oh yeah. 2000 grit here. Bringing it right back around. Wet sanding stage here, of course. And get all those final imperfections out. Yes. Have us a mirror finish on this thing. All right, now that we got this thing cleaned up, moved over to the paint booth here, it's time to start laying some coats on this. Now I am gonna do it, I guess, kind of the right way. Put some primer on it. You know, there's bare metal in here somewhere. But, yeah. Just go to town. Give this thing a few healthy coats. Let her eat in here. That's, one remanufactured drive shaft for you there. Perfect. Alright, well, this stuff's, you know, close enough. Quick run inside for a sandwich, and yeah, I think this will work. So, back in the paint booth. Give this thing a good healthy coat. Get it looking right. Do the old twirl here. Oh yeah. No, ooh no. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Moses, where's my toolbox? Oh. May have to step outside for a breath of fresh air after that one. No, soda gets me right. Skittles, maybe? Oh, yeah. Christmas candy. Awesome. Well, an actual legit reason to wear the safety glasses for once. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Here we go. There's one down. Luckily, I've had these out before. Somewhere up there. I've had these out. I've put new straps on it years and years ago, of course, but makes it slightly easier. Uh-oh. There we go. I got the jack just holding the tank up right now. It does have, you know, a little bit of gas in it. What in the hell? Uh-oh. I exploded a wheel. I think. Is that what that is? Yup. Man down. Oh, geez. Carnage. Oh, well. Alright, let's see if we can wrangle this thing out of here. And by this thing, I mean the tank and myself. Oh. Yep. Alright. Get everything. Oh, shit. Hey, well, I guess that's one way to get that out. I'll be glad to get this all cleaned up. And all that mess. That's mostly brake fluid at this point. Just from that brake line leaking, but where are we going to put that? Put that there. Sorry if I knocked you a little bit. But it'll also be nice to get that tank all cleaned up. Holy Moses. I don't know if you can see the pile of crap that just fell out of there when that fell down, but like I said, it'll also be nice to get in here and get this cross member cleaned up and get the inside of this frame cleaned up. But first and foremost, I need to get all these nuts in for the suspension. There we go. I need to put these back in before I try and put the tank in, because I don't know that I'll get them in any other way. There's those. Nice. Hey, if I'm going to take this thing up and wash it, I don't want a bunch of water getting in there. I still do have gas in it. And, you know, even though I probably should dump that gas out, we'll see. But I'm just going to put a glove over this thing, put a little wrap of tape around it to keep it from going anywhere. Yep, yep. There we go. That shouldn't blow off. I'll do the same on the lines just to keep any spray from getting in those. Nothing too overly concerning there, but, you know, whatever. Well, at least the outside's not too shabby. The old original marks from the factory. Yeah, that cleaned up pretty good. And all the junk and grime and everything off of it. This thing, yeah. And all that brake fluid and nasty crap off of it. Good to go. Got the old F-150 out on the case here. Yeah, she'll do just fine. It's kind of crappy out. Well, while I was dinking around with painting and stuff, watching it dry, I went ahead and bolted this side together. You know, not a big deal, pretty much copy and paste to the other side. And I ended up flipping the shackles back. Now, I may change that in the future, we'll see. But I like the amount of clearance I get here. And worst case, I think what I'll end up doing is if I want to go any lower, I'll probably just throw some blocks in it and, you know, go that route. So anyway, just thought I'd kind of update you on that, where I'm at. As you can see, I spared no expense here. Went ahead and had these things chrome plated. Not really, just the silver paint isn't so silver. It's more like chrome. It's actually aluminum. But yeah, just waiting for these things to, oh, not even close. Waiting for these things to dry, and yeah, it's the way she goes, I guess. Well, it's a few days later, another holiday down. Happy New Year's to everybody. And as you can see, I've been popping out here and there and trying to get some work done. One of the bigger things I did on this was took the original leaf spring brackets off, cut those off, and yeah, I think they're over here. There we go, in the scrap pile there. But cut those off, ground this all out, and got the whole rear end cleaned up and painted. I have some other ones that are currently on the leaf springs. You can see them there. And the plan there is to get the rear end all mounted, centered, pinion angle, everything set, and then I'll grind some of this paint down and then weld the new brackets on. Well, not new, old brackets. But before they were just in there and kind of, you know, sitting there, which didn't help my case any. Those should have been welded on. I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. So anyway, if you guys are curious, those are actually just universal leaf spring purchase. I get those from Speedway. They're cheap. I want to say they're under 20 bucks for the pair. Last time I remember buying them, I want to say they were like $13 to $15, which is crazy cheap, and they're well made. They hold up, and I've used those on multiple vehicles doing axle flips and stuff like that. So if you're looking for an axle flip and you don't necessarily want to spend the big bucks on doing like the you know, pre-made kits with the little kind of square bracket that lines everything up, you know how to set pinion angle, that's the way to go, I think. Then you can get it exactly where you need it and weld them in place. Done. The other thing I've been doing that doesn't make for great content is going through the insides of the frame rails and cleaning, grinding those down, and getting them painted. You can see I've got this cross member, at least the top side of it, painted. I haven't felt like laying on my back exactly to get the underside and have that all up in my teeth, because that's a nasty job. And everything in my garage is already coated with nasty dust and is just a mess. And for right now, basically, I'm stopping at the back of the cab wall and just going to there. I can get the rest later as we move up to the front. I can do it little by little. It's not going to hurt anything to do it a little bit at a time. But yeah, pretty much all the way up to the back cab wall there has been painted, other than the underside of that little cross member there for the gas tank. But I do need to get that painted before I put the gas tank back in. Otherwise, all the suspension's in, everything's just loose. I'm about ready to start dropping this rear axle back in. I did also, while I was out, I'll move you down here, you can see kind of what I was talking about originally. The wiring's just going up through the notch, coming back out the other side. I have it routed back to the back. Can't see it, my arm's in the way, but it routes back to the back, factory, you know, clamps and whatever. But I do have, like, this is the speed sensor wiring for the rear diff. It just kind of hangs here. You can see some spots got a little bit melty, and it's just in kind of poor shape to start with. So I picked up some new loom. I did pick up some of the little rubber P-clamps that I'm gonna mount this so it can kind of be nice and sit here and, you know, go off the axle. I do need to mount the tab for the brake hose, but I figure I'll probably do that once I get the rear end set in place and everything figured out where that thing wants to live. And again, I'll just grind down a little spot, weld that in, touch the paint up. The upside of doing these where it's not like some professional paint job, obviously just a brush and a little bit of time, is I can do stuff like that. I can go back and touch it up as need be, and nobody will ever notice. Anyway, making some progress here. Like I said before, I think I said it before, just little bits at a time, and you know, trying to sneak out between, you know, doing holiday stuff and doing all that. So it's been a little bit of a, you know, fight getting out here, and it's not always been stuff that I feel like, you know, is worth recording, and nothing you guys really want to see, unless you really want to see me grinding on a frame and getting all covered in, you know, nasty rusty crap. But, you know, if you do, I guess leave a comment. I can add more of that stuff in the future. About there. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Ouch. Forward. Hey. Ooh, I got an idea. Let's just bury this thing up in here. Right on the bump stops. Maybe. Well, this side made it. Cool. This side. There's two. Nice. Let's see if we can budge this over a little bit. Should be right about there. How close is this one? Dang near spot on. Now, while I did cut the top brackets off for where the leaf springs were, there were a few indents where, when from the factory they started welding, that just left like a pit or a pothole in the metal. I just went ahead and left those, and that also gave me kind of a good reference point to where, when I'm just sitting here budging this thing around and saying, oop, is that close? How close am I? You know, bump it a little bit more. Those give me two little indicator marks in that axle tube where that axle needs to sit on the new perch. So obviously that's just kind of guesswork at this point. I will do some measurements, you know, side to side and, you know, tire to frame rail, that kind of stuff, to get that all centered up exactly before I do any final welding. But for right now, I'm just kind of fitting everything in there, just dry fitting. Obviously none of the, you know, suspension stuff, none of those bolts are tight or even all the way in place. Just the hangers themselves, the brackets on the frame, are the only thing that are actually like pounded in. All right, well, I decided that instead of just straight up fixing this, because it got so hot, I wanted to get the old kind of heat shielding off, or you know, split loom, whatever. Ford used some weird stuff. It wasn't actually split loom, it was just one solid piece. And this thing was also like way too long anymore with as much drop as I've had, so it always kind of made this big goofy loop around and stuck with the brake line and everything. It's just got to go right here, from here to here. I cut a little bit out of it. I left enough to where it can obviously still kind of loop around like it would have from the factory, and just a hair more because it'll follow the brake line down here. But before, it would have been clear out like that. So fix these wires back up quick and get to mounting this thing. Good enough. Basically a factory connection, not a big deal. For stuff like this, I like using, I call them P clamps, you know, insulated clamps, whatever you want to call them. Just these little, see, kind of looks like a P. Well, I guess looks like a P. Anyway, I like picking up these little kits from Harbor Freight. They're cheap. Yeah, they're also cheap, but they work great for stuff like this. So, a little self-tapper action. I'm not fancy enough to have the you know, any other method. I could drill and tap it, I guess, but meh. Anyway, right about there. Sounds perfect. There we go. Nice clean little mounting, rubber insulated, you know, self-tapper that's not going to go anywhere for at least a year or two before it rusts out. And that is mounted. Once I get my brake lines sorted, I'll just probably route this down here. And obviously, like sitting right here, I'm at full droop, if you want to call it that. So having that slack in here is plenty. And then obviously once the axle comes up, I'll have a little more. So I'll be able to route down here along the brake line that'll come probably up along there. And yeah, that looks good. I can start worrying about the brake line now. All right, so basically what I did is I was going to buy a new line. I realized that I had replaced this one fairly recently. You know, still got all the coating and it's not too rusted. But on the advice of one of you guys, I actually decided to kind of change my plans a little bit. Originally, I'd mounted this thing down here on the axle, and you know, this kind of sat at a weird angle. So what I'm going to do instead is actually move this. That may not work either. Actually mount this down here on the breather hole. I don't know if you guys can see that. I have the breather out of it right now, but I drilled the hole. I cut the bracket down because it was a big long thing like that. Opened the hole up enough for the little breather fitting to go through it, and then I think I'm going to do something like that. I am just in a pickle, aren't I? Well, I'm going to keep playing around with this. I didn't get quite this far when I was messing with it, so I might play around with this a little more. Come back to you guys with what I come up with. We'll see. Interesting. Give that enough time. Ooh, my hair is getting wild. Anyway, I'll give that enough time to cool off. Hit that again with a little bit of primer, a little bit of paint. Let that dry off. Put my wiring back in place. And then about ready to mount that guy up. Alright, well, after nowhere near long enough to dry and getting impatient, I'm going to start putting this back together. Now all I did was took and cleaned up this little fitting, gave it a shot of paint. You know, I'll probably mess that up putting it on, but it is what it is. I'm going to put this at a little bit of a weird angle. Get a little Teflon tape on there just to, you know, keep it from leaking, hopefully. And like I said, I'll probably mess this paint up, but it is what it is. Give me that cranker on there, just tight enough. Perfect. sure where I got this. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Don't tell me I did that wrong. Oh, no. There we go. There we go. Then all I need is a little clip on this side. It's over there. I gave it a coat of paint as well. But, yeah, that'll work. Anyway, not too bad. Like I said, I'll come back, put my wiring back on, and I can start doing brake lines. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get to that in this video. Like I said, I need to pick up some lines, some fittings, and stuff like that. The goal here is really just to get kind of everything loosely bolted in place and maybe be able to see what this thing's looking like on the ground. But even if I don't get it on the ground, I just want everything kind of loosely bolted in place. I'm not sure where I'm at time-wise on this video yet. Obviously, not done filming it. But this may get broke up into another one, I guess. Let's, yeah, what do we do from here? I guess I could finish bolting that brake line on and maybe start throwing some U-bolts and the plates at it. Now, I haven't cleaned or painted those as well. I'm tired of watching paint dry and want to get something else done. The other fun thing, not that it makes much of a difference, but there's those kind of J-clips painted silver. Just adds a little bit of detail to it that, you know, nobody will ever see, but I know it's there. Anyway, got all those popped in. Not a big deal. Otherwise, rear end is bolted in. I'm about ready to drop this thing on the ground. I could put shocks in, but I'm going to leave that for now. And yeah, there you can see the brake hose set up, everything, and my wiring. All looking not too shabby. I'm not super thrilled with how the old brake hose there kind of turned out, but hey, you know, whatever. It'll work. All right, let's get this thing on the ground. Well, there my jack's maxed out. Let's see if I can pull these. Oh, yeah. Jack stand number 1, stand number 2. Oh, yeah. Drop it like it's hot. Ooh. Oh. WTF was that? Oh yeah, that's way more gooder. I know that isn't with the weight of the bed or anything else on it, but look at all that clearance in there. See if I can bounce this some. You know, that's just with me leaning my weight on it, but that's awesome. With this thing, with the bed on it, and it just sitting on the ground static like that, I was only maybe ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch off the bump stops before, with no air in the, no, I take that back. I know for a fact, because before, if I had all the air out of the air shocks, this thing was sitting flat on the bump stops. So now, I'm sitting pretty close to the same height, and I got 2 to 3 inches of clearance between those bump stops. That's awesome. Again, that's just me kind of throwing my weight at the thing. I know it'll move more than that, but I don't have any shocks or air shocks or anything on this to give it any kind of extra spring rate and hold it up. Where before, like I said, this thing would have been sitting flat on those bump stops. So I am pumped about that. You can also see there how the brake line kind of will work out. It's just hanging there under its own weight. I'm fine with that. Got a lot of stuff done in this video. It's taken me a while, that's for sure. But, you know, you'll have that sometimes. Anyway, I hope you join me for the next one. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, go back, check those out, see how we got to this point here. You can find out why there's a giant hole in the back of my cab. You know, that's something interesting. If you haven't seen those videos, there's some old ones, but they're there. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I definitely appreciate all the new subscribers. We got a ton of you guys. We're just this close to 1,000, and that's pretty exciting stuff. Like I said before in some other videos, it just blows my mind that there's, you know, even 1,000 of you guys that are interested in sitting around watching an old goofball dink around with old mini trucks. And, you know, I have fun doing it. I hope you guys have fun watching it. And yeah, hope to see you for the next one. So anyway, like I said, that'll do it for today. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Oh. All right. Start putting tools away.